Ever feel like you're sitting on a cactus, but there's no plant in sight? Hemaway cream is here to turn that prickly pain into soothing relief faster than you can say, ouch. Because the only thing you should be sitting on is the edge of your seat for the next podcast episode, not because of those pesky hemorrhoids. Swipe that discomfort away with Hemaway. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with your host, John Merkus. In this episode, we dive deeper into personal growth, motivation, and keys to success. Join us as Aaron Holesgrove shares invaluable insights on embracing communication and fostering a culture of empathy and respect. Get ready for more inspiration and actionable advice in this enriching continuation of last week's episode. Remember from last week, Aaron is talking about the SCARF model. He's already gone through S for status, C for certainty, and now he starts with A for autonomy as we continue our conversation for greatness.
Yeah, well, because naturally, if you make a decision for someone, there is the chance that you could trigger the fight or flight response in them, or make them feel like they don't matter enough that they could perhaps be a part of the consultative process. Right? We all know what a RACI is, right? In terms of responsibility, accountability, consulted or informed.
Yep.
You know, and even honoring the lower levels of consulted and informed is offering people some more level of autonomy to make them feel like they matter. You know, you don't want people feeling like they're just subordinates that answer to you, you know?
Yeah, and it's exactly the same in the change management world, in the corporate world. We really want to support people and take them on the journey and have as much involvement as possible. So it's not something that's being done to them. We're doing it all together.
Absolutely. I can say that I'm working in a software development project right now. I actually took over about 2 months into the delivery of the project. And my teammates found it a bit jarring in me where we would dial into a meeting. There was an existing structure of meetings that were in place in everyone's calendars. And we dial into the meeting, and the first thing I would say to them is something like, does everyone feel like we need to have this meeting? You know, if you don't feel like there's anything of value that would be generated from this discussion, I'd be happy to just flag it and move on to doing other things. I know we're all busy. And you'd see them all jump back like, well, we were summoned to this meeting. It's in the calendar. We're supposed to do it. Never actually considered I could have that time back. And even though I'm the project manager of the project, I'm giving them a chance to just sort of go, yeah, look, you know, there's stuff to talk about, but not as important as other things that are important right now that I need to do, and allow them to make a decision about how to best spend their time on what has the highest business value at that time, which could potentially not be that meeting. And I've even found in some of those situations, one of the people in the meeting has actually said, oh, actually, there's something that I really wanted to talk about. So I would like to stick around, but maybe we could make it half an hour instead of an hour. You know? And then I'd be going, okay, it's a great suggestion. Let's do that. Just offering them autonomy, letting them feel like all of their opinions matter, to at least listen to them, you know? Even if you don't ultimately go with their recommendations, makes all the difference in how you get along with people.
I've got a question that was coming up about how you work within teams and how you generate that enthusiasm and positivity within teams. And you're telling us, just because you can see listeners, can't you, or you can hear listeners, how Aaron operates and how he's really thoughtful and how he thinks. And it's what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say it makes you want to connect with you, but it's kind of about that. It's about rapport. It's about, I don't know, you just feel like it's a feeling you get when interacting with you. I'm getting it now. And I used to have it when we were working closely together, that you want to be around this guy.
Well, you know, part of servant leadership is all about leading by example.
Great. Now, let's touch on that, because the first time I heard the expression servant leadership, it elicited, I keep using that word and I can't even say it right, a response in me that was like, I'm the leader, you're the servant. That doesn't sound right, but it's the total opposite of that, isn't it?
Yeah, so servant leadership, yeah, you don't take it too literally. Servant leadership is all about being able to lead, consult, and serve, and to context switch between any and all three. And so, yeah, you referred to agility in the intro. So part of my technical background is working in a methodology called Agile, which is used in IT. And this is all about flexible thinking, being adaptable to working circumstances. Things change. Okay, that's inevitable. It can also mean that you're not going to do everything sequentially. You're not going to do all of the writing requirements and then finish it and then move on, and then all of the graphic design and then finish it and move on. Sometimes you're writing some requirements whilst other features, they're almost finished programming wise, right? And this is agile, flexible thinking. And so you have to bring a servant leadership mentality to that sort of working environment. You can't be someone that's too afraid of speaking to people and just want to hide in front of a computer. You need to be able to be a good communicator. And you need to come to those sorts of teams with the mentalities: I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to work with you to enable you to get the best possible version of yourself and be highly enabled to be effective. So it's almost like that. It's a leadership mentality, but not a management mentality. And ideally, everyone in the team is being a servant leader, and they're all leading, consulting, and serving and context switching all the time.
I love that, Aaron. I love that, Aaron. And I'm super rapt that I can share you, so to speak, with others through this through this podcast. Is there anything else on autonomy? So we're going through the SCARF model. We're up to A. Is there anything? So we've done the status. We've done the certainty. We're talking about the autonomy now. We just had a quick little detour onto what servant leadership is. But getting back to autonomy, is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to that?
I think we've talked enough to have your listeners now really thinking about the conversations that they have with people. I hope that that's the case. You know, how can I offer people a chance to provide input, or at least allow them to feel like they matter enough that I would be consultative of them? You know, and then I challenge anyone to really think about that enough to work that into their conversations, and then think about how their conversations and interactions with those people have changed, just even from observing autonomy in others, the right to choose and feel like they have a choice. You know, it's empowering. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go to relatable now. Are we the R in SCARF?
Yeah, relatedness. Yeah. So, you know, this is a good one. There's several examples I can give you of this. Now, I'll give you an example just from the weekend. I didn't have a lot of sleep. Naturally, when people don't have a lot of sleep, they're not on their best behavior. I'll cop to this, right? Yeah, when you're not on your best behavior, you can be short or blunt with things that you say. And there was a situation in the kitchen where I had asked one of my stepdaughters to make some toast for one of my daughters, and the toast had popped. And basically, I saw it pop and she did it. And so basically, my reaction was to just go, the toast is ready. Now, one of my other stepdaughters pulled me up and said, now, I just want to let you know that when you talk like that, it makes me feel like the way I feel doesn't matter. Like, you know, like you could have handled that differently. And so it's like, hey, sorry, just to let you know that the toast is ready. And it makes all the difference in letting me feel like you care how I feel. And my reaction to that was to say, fair. Yeah, fair to say. Like, I didn't think I was being rude, and I don't think that anyone would think in this example that's rudeness. But nonetheless, that's how she feels, right? And to empathize with someone is to put yourself in their shoes and to think about, okay, right, we're in a relationship here where, like, I'm not your dad, I'm your stepdad, right, for starters. So there's that dynamic. You want to know that this is someone who's got your back and, you know, cares about you enough, just like a dad does, and that's effectively no difference. And so you got a bit more to prove for a guy like me in those sorts of relationships, in those sorts of situations. And so, yeah, I said, okay, that's fair to say. I know that I'm just being a bit short right now because I'm a bit tired. So I'm sorry for saying that. I didn't mean to obviously be instructive or rude or sarcastic or anything like that. And she goes, I know you weren't. Just wanted to let you know, and you'll know for next time that just triggers me a bit. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's a conversation for greatness right there, because she felt comfortable enough to say that to you, give you a bit of feedback, and then your reaction, not the fight or flight one, is to go, yeah, fair enough, and then assess it and talk about it with a mate. That's a conversation, snippet of a conversation for greatness. Fantastic.
Yeah, but like, see, relatedness really comes to your skills as an empath, which everyone can always use. Yeah, that's a tool you're always resharpening, right? All the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, empathy is so important. It's not about like here's an example of the opposite, right? Where say, and I'm sure you've heard an example like this before, where say someone goes, "I was just in a car accident, yeah, last week, and yeah, it was pretty frightening. I got sideswiped by a truck, thrown off the side of the road, went into the gravel, carved up all the side of my car. That cost $1,500 to get fixed while I fight with the insurance company." See, in that example, you could imagine yourself in that situation and you'd go, "Oh, that sucks. Yeah, like it'd be frightening, the truck, the expenses, like that sucks." But that's imagining yourself being in that situation. But forget about yourself. Imagine being that person, the way that they think. Say there could be someone who's neurodiverse or suffers horrible anxiety or has had a car accident in the past. And you imagine thinking like them. Yeah, and you imagine that your response is like, "Gosh, I know that you've been in that situation before. That must have been frightening to feel like, yeah, that's happening again. You're having to relive that trauma and that sort of stuff." That's yeah, you know, you're empathizing. You're relating to them, and that makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world.
I can see how it would. Absolutely. And I can also relate with that's a skill that needs to be worked on constantly. Just being empathetic with people.
Well, see, relatedness in the workplace is an interesting one because everyone feels like they need to put on this constipated professional identity. Like, here's another good example, right? And you'd get this every time you go shopping. You go up to the cash register, and the person behind the register goes, "Hi, how are you?" Does that feel relatable? And what's your answer going to be?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't actually care how I am. You're just saying that because you feel obligated to say it. It's going to amount to, at best, small talk, at worst, the fight or flight response. Like, geez, how can you so obviously make it, you know, front and center that you don't actually care how I am at all? You just give me some canned response, right?
Yeah.
That's why, like, for me personally, I can't stand it when people say "sir" at me. Are you the same, John?
I kind of like it.
Yeah, excuse me, sir. You know, like
Maybe it depends. I guess it depends on the context and the friendliness of it and
it
whatnot.
does. But that's also the point, John. You don't know, do you? Not all the time. That's
Mm.
why, like, in our society, like guys call each other mate all the time. Far more relatable. It's a conversation amongst equals. I'm speaking to you as an equal, mate. How's it going, mate? You're gonna have a much better conversation with things like that. Here's another good one that I've learnt before. Right, I actually learnt this in a parenting after separation course, which is yeah. There's a load of topics of separated parents who have children together. Right, you can imagine there's a lot of hard feelings that happen in those situations. The thing I learnt is that in points of say friction, shall we call it, don't ask why questions, ask how or what questions. So the reason why is because when you ask a why question, like I'll give you an example. I walked into to the kitchen and there's milk all over the floor. And what I what I said to my children is, "Why is there all this milk all over the floor?" Can you imagine the reaction of the children when I said that? "Why is there all this milk all over the floor?" So what do you think is going to happen, John, when my kids get asked that question? Why is there all this milk on the floor?
I think they're going to panic.
Of course they are. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Fight or flight response, right?
Yep.
And then the blame game starts, and then because they're kids, they can't dial it down. And then so, no, you're the one who left it out, and that's why I got knocked over. Blah 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 blah. Devolving right quickly, right? So don't ask why questions. Ask how or what questions, because why questions create this implication of not just I want you to answer me, but I want you to answer to me. Why did you do things that way? Like you're the expert who knows how to do things right. So ask how or what questions. So here's another example, right? One of my stepchildren has a lot of allergies, and we need to be careful with nut-based food products, right? And my foster son left out the peanut butter on the kitchen bench with the lid off, and there was a bit of it smeared on the bench and all that sort of stuff. Now, naturally, you want to ask a why question. It's natural that you want to do this. Why didn't you put it away straight away? Like, But instead, and it actually took me a while because I was thinking to myself, don't say why, don't say why, don't say why, don't say why. So it took me a while to think of a question or the way to raise the issue without saying the word why, right? And this is where I ultimately landed, John. I said, what about this situation here do you think concerns me? And he had to think about it. And he's like, I didn't put the peanut butter away. Yeah. And what do you think is the reason why that would concern me specifically? Because Harper's allergic to it. That's right. Now, how do you think you could deal with this situation better next time? Oh, after I make a sandwich, I put the peanut butter away straight away. That's right. Now, what are you going to do about this situation right now? I'm going to put it away. Thank you. Right. Now,
Yep.
I had to learn. I had to learn that. It took me a long time. But again, like even in the workplace, it's the same sort of situation. When you find yourself in points of friction, asking why questions, you're going to invite the fight or flight response. You're going to set yourself up to fail. It's a good trick to know that one, how or what questions, not why questions.
I love that. That's so powerful, and I can see how that would work in the personal and professional life. And that's what I love about this stuff, that it translates to both worlds or to both areas of your life. We spend a lot of time working, we spend a lot of time with our families and in our personal lives as well. And having some tools like this that you're talking about to be able to use in all circumstances, because effectively we're dealing with human beings and having conversations and interactions. So to be able to have this knowledge, to be able to do that in a more positive and empowering way that you're talking about is absolute gold, brother.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. I'm passionate about it. We don't need to go over fairness because I think it's self-explanatory, right? Like I said at the beginning, it is fair to honor a person's sense of self-worth, to acknowledge their status, to offer them certainty, to offer them autonomy, and to be relatable. Even on a relatable level, the last thing I'll quickly say is it's a bit of a taboo topic, but let's go there. Swearing?
Fuck yeah.
Show people that you stand for something. Like every once in a while, you're like, I'm really fucking passionate about this, and I just want to let you in and be a bit vulnerable and show that to you. A little bit of swearing is okay in the workplace. Obviously, if it's used in a violent context, in an aggressive way towards someone, that is not okay. It's violence, in fact. But being able to be relatable and actually be a little sort of let the guard down a bit and be a little bit rude is a great way to be relatable with people. And it is fair to let people in, show them that you stand for something.
Yeah, I like that. It's fair to let people in. So even Tony Robbins will let out the odd F-bomb to kind of not wake people up, but to get that, attention, to be like, yeah, I've just said something that, instead of saying words and it's the same tone of words and whatever, he's big on tone and everything as well. But then every now and then he might throw an F-bomb in there. Now, I know what you're saying. It's got to be in the right context. You wouldn't just go to your manager and start letting it off. But if you want to, if it's the right environment and it's done in a way where you're letting people in and you're showing people how passionate you are, love it.
And the inverse can actually be true. If you've developed a sort of relationship with your manager where you both feel comfortable enough to be swearing, I think that's a win in my book. I know my manager and I, if you sat in our conversations, we're like two boys in the schoolyard, man. But it's great. We're actually showing each other how comfortable we are in speaking with each other and how much we've connected. And it's been a great part of our working relationship.
It's such an interesting topic. As people have said that I need to swear more on the podcast, so I've let a couple go. I like a bit of feedback. But I've also feel this. Oh, when I say it on air. But anyway, let's move on from swearing. Aaron, the SCARF model, I love it. The S for status, the C for certainty, the A for autonomy, the R for, I said relatable, but is it
It's the same thing. Relatedness. Yeah, it's the same
relatedness?
thing.
And F for fairness, the SCARF model. You've really explained that well, and you've given us some great examples, both personally and professionally. So I've got a lot out of that, and I really feel like our rise and thrivers will as well. So thank you so much for explaining that model.
No worries at all. I really hope that people got a lot out of it, and it's definitely food for thought, right? And like I said at the beginning, I'm still learning every day at this stuff. I'm still screwing up at these things every day. But even for me, like it helps me learn and get better at this stuff myself by talking about it. So yeah, thanks for having me on and giving me a chance to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Hey, mate, you've hit the nail on the head. That's part of my motivation for doing this podcast, because it means on a regular basis I'm having these exact conversations. We
Yeah.
haven't seen each other for a little while, and had I not been doing this, it might have been even longer than today. But today we get the opportunity to have a conversation for greatness. You've taught me so much in that SCARF model. That don't ask the why questions, but ask the how and the what questions. I'm going to have that for life. And
Yeah.
then at least I get to choose what to do with it in certain circumstances. It's super powerful. Being in these kind of conversations, I think, is so important to be able to go to the next level and have the awareness, learn some new things. Some people would say we're here to learn and grow. That's our mission in life. That's the meaning in life. I love doing it, and I'm so rapt that you're on the show. I'm not going to let you go yet, though. I want to talk to you about a couple of other things.
Sure.
Now, I said, let me go with this, right? I'm going to read some things to you, and I want to see your reaction after I've read them to you, right?
All right, this will be fun.
Aaron is always thinking outside the box with a continuous improvement mindset. Aaron's can-do attitude can lift the capabilities of teams where he's involved. An outstanding communicator, Aaron ensures that everyone is aligned and focused on the mission. Aaron brings a level of positive energy that's infectious. I have no doubt that he'll be a force for good wherever he goes. Mate, people are saying that about you. And I think after our listeners have heard you today, they can see why someone would say that to you. How awesome that people are talking about you like this, mate.
Yeah, I'm flattered. Absolutely. But, here's something fascinating that I heard even just in the last 12 months, right? It's a bit morbid, but it's okay, right? It was some advice from Warren Buffett. Yeah, Warren Buffett, one of the richest guys in the world. He was saying, imagine your funeral. Who would show up? Like who would be sad enough that you actually died, that they'd show up to your funeral? Are you happy with that number? And if not, imagine your obituary when it's read out at your funeral. What would it be? What would you want it to be? What you want it to be? Live that life, man.
I love that. I love that.
I love it too.
A little bit like having the end in mind. I know there was, I don't remember what it's called or even who told me, but I know someone had a chat with me once and said they spent thousands of dollars going on a personal development course. And what it was imagining your funeral and then writing down all that kind of stuff, and then working out what you can do to have it be the way that you want it to be. So there's even a course you can do to have some breakthroughs around that area. But I like the way you look at it. It's like having that, what difference did I make? Having that end goal, really, really thinking about it. And it's something in the Western society that we don't like to think or talk about, that we are going to end one day. I know in Buddhism and other cultures and things like that, they're very aware of the fact that this wonderful ride we called life will end one day. Semi-recently, I guess as you age, you think about your mortality more than when you're younger. But that's why every day to me right now seems like a gift, because I think, oh, good, I've got another one. I'm not saying I'm, going to drop off the perch anytime soon. Not that I know of. But having that, this is going to end one day, and I want to do something with what I've got left. Let's get on with it. Let's do it. Let's chase that dream. Let's have that crazy podcast. Let's invite Tony Robbins onto the show and see if he comes. All these kind of things.
Yeah,
Always
hey,
got.
like I know from knowing you for years, you've talked about doing this podcast for a while, and now I'm so happy for you. You've done it. You're doing it, man. Live your best life, right? And this is like for me, like I just put yourself out there. I'm fascinated by people, right? I'm such a different guy. My three interests are music, basketball, and computers. I very rarely meet anyone that likes any two of those three things. And I've never met anyone that likes all three. So I'm a bit of an oddball. So meeting other people who do stuff that I've never even thought about is fascinating for me. So all you can do is put yourself out there to give yourself the opportunity to meet people, to be exposed to those situations, right? So I love helping people. It's fun.
Awesome, awesome. So if you're, and thank you for that compliment, mate. And if you're listening and there's something you've always wanted to do, take one action today. What conversation can you have? What's something you can do? One thing that you can do to bring yourself closer to that thing you've always wanted to do. My main man, now the reason I said you're a bit of a rebel in the intro is because you have a team ignition certification from Rebels with a Cause. Was that the course that you did?
Yeah, it's based over in the US. So Keith Ferrazzi is the person who set it up. He's got a lot of great personal motivation stuff that he records videos about all the time, all the time. He's written a couple of really good books too. He's a good one to look up.
I know that course had a profound impact on you, and I was just wondering if you could share something of what you learnt in that course or the impact that it had on you.
Okay, I'll do a super quick hitter, right? The concept of an energy check, right? You know how like Are You Okay Day is really trying to normalize the idea of like, okay, it's good to start with one day out of 365 to say Are you okay, but really try and make every day an Are You Okay day. Asking people Are you okay can be a really polarizing thing, right? An energy check is really fascinating because the concept behind it, and this is what I learned in the Rebel with Cause course, is it's a non-invasive way to check in with people. And you basically do this amongst a group of people. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you say your energy levels are right now? I'm not going to ask you why, but just put a number on it. You might say, yeah, you might sort of say, oh, about 2 right now. And it could be for whatever reason, like you've had a relationship breakdown or you have 3 hours sleep or yeah, whatever the reasons are. But you don't ask. You just ask for a number. But what that sets you up for is to be able to go either number one, how much of a difference would it make to your day to try and make that 2 or 3? The 2 is whatever it is, but if we could turn that 2 into a 3, how awesome would that be? What kind of a difference would that make to your working day to be able to get through it all? Oh yeah, I'd say it'd be helpful. And I've used this in situations before where I've pulled out my acoustic guitar and gone and sung some sort of song and made people laugh and things like that, and then just make their day just that 1% better. Hey, it's 1% something, you know? And then their day is just that little bit happier. And then maybe they are a 3 now instead of a 2. And you never know what the reasons were and what it become and all that. But just with the numbers, that could be really effective. And then the other side of it too is that you can really sort of say to people, look, your teammates have spoken. They've all put a number on it. We've seen some 1s, we've seen some 4s. You've got a general sense of where people are at. Now, we're in a group setting. We're going to talk about our feelings and that sort of stuff right now. It can be a little sort of humiliating, or you're just a little too oversharing, or whatever the case may be. But you're armed with some information to be able to speak to someone privately, either now or in a week's time, whatever. And it's like, hey, I saw you said 2. When we had that meeting, did you want to go get lunch together or something? Have a bit of a chat, like. You're armed with the tools to be able to connect with people because you've got some sort of general sense of how their energy levels are at the moment. And this is one of the things we learned in that course. It was fantastic. I use it in the workplace all the time. I love it.
Thank you, mate. I love learning from other people and other techniques and things from the courses that they've done. Thanks for sharing that. Now, you are tech. You did say is one of your passions. You told me a story once about a tech blog or story that you wrote, and that you didn't expect the review or the impacted person or company to respond, but they did. Can you share that with us? Because I remember that story that you told. And one of the things I remember about it is that the unexpected, the not tenacity, but the just taking the action and seeing what will be, all those kind of things. So you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So I used to, back in like 2010, 2011, I had my own website. I was a blogger for a while there. It was called oztechnews.com. It doesn't exist anymore. Through doing that, I was actually sourced by Business Insider, one of the biggest websites on the planet, to become a writer for them. And so that instantly gave me an audience where every article I wrote was at least 20,000 people reading it like on the first day. In fact, if you do a Google search for Aaron Holsgrove Business Insider, you can see all the articles that I wrote for them back in the day. Yeah, I was quite cheeky. Yeah, I'm known as quite an upfront guy, shall we say. And so I would always write cheeky, snarky articles. And I wrote an article about the iPad when it just first came out. And I made some comment like, the iPad's good for nothing more than reading websites on the toilet. You know, which back then, yeah, the first version, pretty true. It was in response to this guy crapping on about Windows 8 and Microsoft shouldn't bother and blah, blah, blah. And it was a counter argument. Well, this guy that I was counter arguing with is the biggest Apple blogger on the planet, John Gruber. He has a website called daringfireball.net. I still read his website to this day. It's interesting. He's an Apple zealot. He's always apologizing for Apple and all that sort of stuff. And I've always found he was frustrating with his Apple biased coverage. And for a long time there, he was just deliberately anti-Microsoft and trying to be anti-Microsoft. And I just find that perspective frustrating because the reality is they're all evil empires, just not just Microsoft, right? And so basically, yeah, he wrote an article. I wrote an article in response to his article. He wrote an article in response to my article, and naturally put it all out there to all the Apple zealots, like, let this guy have it. And they did too. I had like hundreds of people writing to me on Twitter, commenting on my articles and stuff, really just going like, you're a moron. And I even got a death threat from one guy because I offended their amazing Apple products that they hold in such high regard. Yeah, that guy certainly has a platform of millions and millions of people who follow his content and let me have it. And I got it. And that was one of the catalysts of me actually getting out of blogging altogether, because I found, like, writing for Business Insider, it's the 326th most trafficked website on the planet, right? Now, it's a massive platform to write from. I was excited. But if I'm going to be completely candid, writing for an American audience, they're trolls. Like, they would just flood your articles with comments of negativity. I just don't need that negativity in my life. I'm Australian. I don't have that mentality, right? So, yeah, I ultimately got out of it. I was glad that I had a good run. It got to that sort of level. Yeah, writing for Business Insider was a massive achievement for me. And I got to say that I did it, got some great experience, did lots of product reviews and free tech toys and stuff, and then dusted my hands and got out of it. Never looked back.
Yeah, right. That gentleman writing an article in response, I think that was the thing that I remember that was surprising at the time, that this guy read your article and wrote that response.
I got noticed, huh?
Yeah, you got
noticed. That was legitimacy. You know the old saying, "There's no such thing as bad publicity."
Yeah. You like to make meetings fun, that I recall when we worked together, and you used to do an IT fun fact, or an IT fact for way too early in the morning, I think you used to call it. Is that right?
Yep. It is. This is true.
Have you got an IT fact for us you can share? For old time's sake.
Do you want the intro?
Yeah, let's do it, if you can.
Well, I can't play metal music because I don't want you getting a takedown notice on YouTube, right? For playing someone else's music. But basically, let's break out those air guitars and get those horns high up in the air as I get into character for my one-off Rise and Thrive podcast edition of Fun IT Facts for way too early in the morning, even though it's like 2:00 in the afternoon right now. So, all right, fun fact for you. Did you know that Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who created Facebook, is red-green colorblind? True fact. And that is the reason why Facebook is just totally blue. The website, the app, is just plastered in blue, even right from the beginning, because when he made that website by himself, obviously he was using colors that he can actually see and looked good for him. And so he settled on blue because RGB, he's red and green colorblind. So blue is the only color that works for him in terms of what looks good. And so that's why Facebook is just plastered in blue and white in terms of its color themes. It's because he's colorblind.
Wow, now we're going to think of you and Mark whenever we're looking at Facebook. I love it. I love it. And you've talked about music a little bit. I know you've been in bands. You play an awesome guitar. You're more of a hard rock, heavy metal kind of guy in terms of the music that you love. Although I do know you've got a wide range in tastes in music. What if you had to think, all right, I want to pump myself up. I want to get motivated and inspired to take some action. I've got the Merko Motivation playlist on Spotify. What would I put on there as the Aaron Holesgrove song for motivation?
What a question. I was prepared for this one. I really thought about it because I listened to your podcast, all right?
Thanks for being a dedicated listener, mate. I love it.
So the song that I landed on is a song called All These Things I Hate Revolve Around Me. It's by a band called Bullet for My Valentine. It's my favorite metal band. I'm predominantly a punk musician guy, but I love my metal, right? And this song's a good one because it's kind of like a hybrid between punk and metal. Yeah, like I know there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this podcast who go, oh, I don't like metal headbangers and metal music and that sort of stuff. This isn't a metal song or anything like a face melter. It actually is quite a nice song. It starts off with acoustic and singing, and then just that power dynamic comes in. And every time I play it in the car, I'm just like, yeah. You have to sing along to it. And it can turn any bad day into a good day playing that song.
That's absolutely perfect. That's going straight on. I love the playlist because whenever I hear the songs in it, it reminds me about the awesome guests I've had on Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness. That Bullet for My Valentine is definitely going to do that, make me think of you. In fact, because you turned me on to that band, I'd heard of them, but I'd never listened to anything until I heard you playing a few songs in a few meetings, I think, at the start of the Fun Facts, IT Facts for way too early in the morning piece segment that you do. And mate, there's so many things we could talk about. I'm sure I'm going to have you on the show again, but I do like to ask my guests, is there a question you wish I would have asked you today?
Wow, what a question. Actually, no. The thought never occurred to me. I've really genuinely enjoyed this conversation, and I knew it would be a great conversation because we've been great friends for a while now, and I've always really enjoyed our interactions. And we've always been two guys that are really passionate about self-development and that sort of stuff. So I knew this would be a banger. Well, I've had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. You've given me and the audience so much gold today. Going to have a lot of the things in the show notes. Some of the books that we've talked about will also be in the show notes. You've been very generous with your time. I'm sure you've built rapport with the audience really quickly, as you always do. So great to connect with you. Aaron Holsgrove, thanks for being on the show.
These ones, man. Rock on.
Thanks for joining us on Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you do matter. Embrace the journey of personal growth and motivation. Let's go out there and do something great. Follow or subscribe for more insights and inspiration every Tuesday. Until next time, stay awesome.